All right, so today we're diving into some really interesting stuff about SEO. And from what you've sent over about how search engines are changing, it feels like the ground is kind of shifting under our feet.
Yeah, it's true. Like those days of tricking the system with keyword stuffing are long gone.
Yeah.
We're seeing a pretty fundamental change in how search engines are understanding websites. And it's all thanks to this thing called embeddings.
Embeddings. Okay. I'll be honest, when I first saw that word, I thought we were talking about something you'd find in like a genetics lab.
Well, there's some interesting parallels there, actually. Think about it like this. Every piece of content you create has like a unique essence, a core message.
Yeah.
Embeddings, they kind of capture that essence, almost like a fingerprint. They're what let search engines understand the meaning and all the relationships within your content on a much deeper level.
So instead of just looking for keywords, search engines are what, now analyzing my content like a literature professor grading a term paper?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. They're looking at the bigger picture, trying to understand the context, the nuances of your writing. It's not just about what you say anymore. It's about how you say it.
And that's where this whole idea of Parasite SEO comes in, right? It feels a little bit like a sci-fi thriller where some digital entity is trying to like latch onto your website.
In a way, it is. Parasite SEO is all about exploiting this new shift to embedding-based algorithms.
Hmm.
Basically, it's when someone tries to game the system by creating content that isn't really aligned with their website's main focus.
So like if I had a website all about baking, but I started sneaking in articles about, let's say, motorcycle repair, just because I thought I would get more clicks.
Precisely. The problem is search engines are getting better, much more adept at spotting these mismatches. They can tell when content just feels out of place, like if someone just randomly stuck a different chapter into a novel.
And if they catch on, if the search engines catch on to this mismatch, then what happens? Does my website like get thrown in some digital doghouse?
Well, it's not quite that dramatic, but yeah, it can definitely hurt your ranking. Because search engines, what they really want is to give their users the most relevant, the most trustworthy results. So if a search engine feels like your content is all disjointed or misleading, it's definitely going to be less likely to show it to people who are actually interested in what you have to offer.
Okay, so how do we avoid this trap? Is there like a way to check for these parasite SEO red flags before they even become a problem?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where I think things get even more interesting because there are actually tools out there now that can analyze your website's embedding clusters and let you know if there are any potential issues. One platform that's doing some really, really cutting-edge work in this area is Brew.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about Market Brew. So tell me, how are they using this technology?
So imagine, right, being able to actually visualize the core themes, the core topics of your whole website, almost like you're looking at a map of its DNA. That's essentially what Market Brew lets you do. They use AI and embeddings to create these visual representations of your content, and they highlight any areas where things might be a bit out of sync.
So I could actually see if there are like any rogue pieces of content on my website, stuff that doesn't really belong with the main themes.
Exactly. And once you've found those potential parasites, you can actually start taking action. Maybe that means you revise the content to be more aligned with your main message. Or, maybe it makes more sense to just get rid of it altogether.
This is really fascinating stuff. It's like having a whole new lens, right, through which we're viewing SEO. It's not just about keywords anymore, huh? It's about crafting this cohesive and authentic online presence.
I couldn't have said it better myself. At the end of the day, it's all about trust. Building trust with both the search engines and your audience. And you build that trust by creating content that is genuinely valuable, content that's relevant.
Okay, so how do these tools actually work in practice? Like, walk me through this. Like, I'm a total novice. What are the actual steps to like using something like Market Brew to optimize my website for this new era of SEO? So walk me through it. Let's say I'm ready. I want to roll up my sleeves and use Market Brew to give my website this embedding checkup. What am I actually doing?
Well, one of the really cool things about Market Brew is they've got this free tool. It's called the AI Overviews Visualizer. And you can just pop in your website URL, and it generates this visual representation of all your content clusters. It's really user-friendly, even if you're not, a tech person.
So I can actually see these clusters, like these thematic groupings of all my content right there on the screen.
Exactly. You'll see how closely related your different pages and your different articles are,
Yeah.
all based on their little embedding fingerprints. And this is really interesting. It can be really eye-opening because it might actually reveal some connections that you hadn't even like thought about before. Or, it could highlight places where your content's kind of a bit scattered.
And I imagine that's where you get those aha moments, right? Like, oh, that's why that one page never seems to rank very well. It's a total outlier. It's not in the right embedding
You
cluster.
got it. Yeah, it gives you this whole new level of insight into how these search engines are actually interpreting your website.
Okay, so this is starting to really click now. So once I've, had my fun playing around with the visualizer and I'm starting to get a sense of my website's like embedding landscape,
Yeah.
then what? Like, how do I actually use this to improve my SEO?
Well, that's where the real work begins.
Yeah.
And Market Brew has a bunch of different tools and features that can actually help you optimize your content. For example, they have this thing called the website embedding listing screen.
Mhm.
And it gives you an even more detailed analysis of your site's overall thematic patterns.
Yeah.
So you can really see which topics are the most prominent, which ones might be, a little underrepresented, and then you can see where you might want to make some adjustments.
Okay, so let's say I've used that and I've found a few areas for improvement, right? Like maybe I've got a few pieces of content that are just like way off brand, or maybe there are some gaps in my content strategy that I need to fill. What do I do then?
This is where I think those large language models we talked about before, this is where they can really come in handy. They can actually help you rewrite some of that existing content so that it's more aligned with your, target keywords, your overall message. Or, what, they can even help you generate new content, high quality content that just seamlessly fits into all those existing embedding clusters that you've already got.
So it's not just about like fixing mistakes, it's about being more strategic, right? Like using this new understanding of embeddings to just make stronger, more focused content from the ground up.
Absolutely. It's about working with the search engines, not
Yeah.
fighting against them, right? Because
Mhm.
by understanding how embeddings work, we can build websites that are both informative and engaging, for our audiences, but they also make sense to those search engine algorithms.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive, I've got to say, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole embedding thing.
I agree. And honestly, that's what makes this such an exciting time to be involved in SEO because it's constantly evolving. There are endless possibilities.
So to everyone listening out there, I highly recommend, even if it's just to satisfy your own curiosity, check out some of these tools and resources that we've talked about today, because you know what? You might be really surprised at what you find.
And don't forget, the most important thing is to just stay curious, right? Stay informed and never be afraid to experiment a little. This new future of SEO, it's all about adapting and evolving along with all these new technologies.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of embeddings and Parasite SEO. Until next time, happy optimizing.